This idea that you're the best.
This is where the power lies.
He put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family.
You know who I am. But you don't know why I'm here.
I'm the best. I'm the best in the world.
From the top to the bottom. And because they can't handle the Macho Man Randy Savage, the cream of the crop, nobody does it better.
This ain't WCW. This ain't Monday Night Raw. This ain't SmackDown. This ain't even WWE.
It's time to step into the squared circle and get it done.
Kane's debut? Kane's debut was Bad Blood. The very first Hell in a Cell match. Yeah.
Because when he walked out, I mean, bearing in mind, Kane was Isaac Yankem DDS. That was the last time we saw him. Was Fake Diesel, actually.
Fake Diesel. But I want to say as well, this is one of the reasons why it's one of my favourite build-ups in the storyline for a debut, was it was the very first time ever you saw the more vulnerable human side to The Undertaker. When Paul Bearer lets Undertaker know that Kane is still alive, the look, and credit to the cameramen at the time for capturing it, the look on Undertaker's face was the very first time you go, whoa, like there's vulnerability here. We're seeing another side to him here, and that was really, that brought more intrigue to the character. And then obviously you wanted to learn more about the background story of The Undertaker and Kane when they were young. And then you're at the same time guessing, but is Paul Bearer lying? Is he manipulating this situation? Is he just trying to take control of this situation? And there was so much going on at that time. It was fantastic.
I think what I loved about the feud, which became known as the Brothers of Destruction run, was it came out of nowhere because there'd been no rumblings of this brother, and then all of a sudden Kane appears, this monster, wearing a mask, which was a really nice touch, and then the voice synthesizer was a really, really, really nice touch.
And the little play on the fact that The Undertaker was originally Kane the Undertaker.
Yes.
As well. So
it was beautifully done, and you've got to give them credit for continuity and storyline continuity. But they first met in a match at WrestleMania 14. WrestleMania 14. And it just went on for too long.
It really
How many
did.
matches did they have in total? It must be about 152,625.
Yeah, it was. I think that match is probably known for a couple of things. Number one being the multiple tombstones.
Yes.
And then it's the setting the casket on fire. That whole side of things. And then obviously, that was the multiple tombstones, and then it was the rematch at Royal Rumble. That's where the casket was set on fire, and obviously I think DX sort of had some slight involvement in that. But it was this whole thing where, all right, I could appreciate what they were trying to do, but it did get frustrating because it became very similar to how WCW with the NWO was, where NWO was interfering in every match almost. We had this thing where Kane would just randomly come out in matches and during wrestlers giving promos just to come out and chokeslam and tombstone someone. The match would be over, the promo would be over, and he would go, because he was goading the Undertaker to say, "I'm going to keep doing this until you fight me." And because Taker was just hell-bent in saying, I'm never going to fight you, Kane. I'm never going to do it. And obviously, it got to the point where he did. But it was a great story. It was a great ride.
Because I'm not sure when we're next going to do a long-form show on Glenn Jacobs on Kane. I think it's not planned for 2026. I think at the moment, that might change, as it always does. Where does this character stand? Because The Undertaker is notable for being easy to work with. I think he could make anyone. He's one of those ones. He's a ring general. I think he could make anybody look good. But you've got to be able to hang at his level. So could Glenn Jacobs do that? Because everything we saw before didn't give us a good sense of confidence.
I see the Kane character is, I found, one of the most frustrating characters ever, because early on, I mean, obviously, what an imposing sight he was. His mannerisms, the way he moved, credit to Glenn Jacobs, he sold the fact that he was the Undertaker's brother very, very well. The similarities between the way they moved, the way they imitated each other was spot on. My frustration grew not with him, but with creative, how they eventually kind of took away the stature and what Kane stood for. They then made him obviously lose more frequently and got him to do some daft things and things. And it kind of, for me, diluted a chunk of what Kane's career was, when it's got to the point where they, the fact that he only ever held a world title a couple of times and, and he had to do a program in the Hardcore Championship, which I know the Undertaker also did at one point, but they didn't really, it seemed like he lost more often than he won. And it kind of, for me, stagnated his career as the Undertaker. And then we go through obviously the removal of the mask and whatnot. And just thinking actually off the top of my head when you were saying about, not sure when we're going to do a show on Glenn Jacobs, we should do it in 2027 when it hits the 30th anniversary of Kane's debut.
Let's hope we're still doing the show in 2027.
Well, we should be. So hopefully people aren't bored with us yet.
or we just do a comeback, a one night only to talk about Kane.
Yeah.
We're not getting any listeners, but there we go. I think for me, the one thing about the Kane character was, unlike how The Undertaker repackaged himself so well, it always kept that same ethos of the character. The only difference, I think, was the American Badass, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. When they repackaged Kane, they lost everything about Kane.
Yeah.
So the minute they changed the outfit from the red one piece into the singlet,
yeah,
and they started changing the mask, eventually taking the mask off and just wearing the trunks. That, because bear in mind, we talk about continuity in storytelling. He couldn't talk.
Exactly, and then all of a sudden he can talk. It's very much the Kofi Kingston syndrome, isn't it? It's 1 minute he's Jamaican, then he's from Ghana, and talks with a normal American accent, which I
prefer.
Which was actually quite funny because on the literally at the date of this us recording this show, he actually reacted to Jay Cargill's post about Jay Cargill, saying about the first Jamaican in the WWE to win a world championship, and he turned around and said, well, technically it's not true, but congratulations. And I just thought that was absolutely brilliant. So if you know, there was a thing I used to joke around with people when I used to go, when the WWE network first started, where I turned around and I used to go, we used to joke around, me and my friend was at a short Raw show at the O2 in London, and there was a young kid with his two parents, and they were talking about some of the history of some of the wrestlers. And I said to him, and I went, young man, do you remember when Kofi Kingston was Jamaican? Well, for just $9.99 a month, you can relive a whole complete transitional from Jamaican to Ghanan.
How much was the network?
$9.99.
How much?
$9.99. So yeah, but yeah, it's. I agree. This is one of the things that's always frustrated me with not just the WWE, but other promotions as well, is the continuity of someone's background, their origins of their character. To have Kane not be able to talk, he's put a voice box up against his throat, and he's done the whole "suck it" thing when he was teaming with X-Pac, to showing up and randomly being able to talk, and it's just bizarre.
It would be quite difficult for Glenn Jacobs now, obviously the mayor of Cincinnati, to suddenly, or the mayor of or wherever he is, to suddenly come out going, "I am your mayor."
Yeah, just going, "I am here for change."
I mean, he does sound like Davros from the Daleks when he was doing that. I got to.
Well, he sounded like a Dalek. He really did. Shout out to Doctor Who fans, or Whovians, whatever they're called. And they're called
Whovians. Thank you. Yeah. So far, we've got Star Wars references in. We've got Doctor Who references in. I will get Star Trek references in. And if I could get an X-Files reference in, that would be amazing.
See, X-Files, that's my thing. X-Files.
Well, you've got to get that in. I'll get Star Trek.
Yeah. So, well, here we go. I will just simply say, what happened to Kane's voice issue? The truth is out there.
Moving on. There are two feuds that we do need to touch on, but I want to save these because they are arguably, I think, the two greatest feuds that The Undertaker ever had. But I do want to touch on one person who is controversial in his own right, took some time away from the WWE and returned at WrestlePalooza in a match against John Cena. That is, of course, Brock Lesnar.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, Brock Lesnar. What's our take on Brock Lesnar?
Okay, so I have kind of two. So Brock Lesnar, that had his initial run in the WWE, I loved the fact that a guy of his stature, size, to have to be out to have that athletic ability. I mean, a guy that size shooting star press off the top turnbuckle is insane. It really is, and credit where credit's due. The Brock Lesnar that sort of came back in 2012. Which was obviously off the back of his MMA career, so there was more sort of leaning towards that. I've never really been a big fan of the Brock Lesnar that we've had since then because I always feel Brock Lesnar is better in the ring than what we have seen kind of since then. It's kind of like his wrestling ability, what he can really do, has kind of been almost like, oh, we don't require you to do that. We just need you to show up, show off your muscles, dominate, and leave kind of thing. And yeah, but that's what he's become. But if you compare it to the Brock Lesnar that we had before he departed in 2004, they're night and day. They're very different. I would take the younger Brock Lesnar that had an amazing WrestleMania main event with Kurt Angle, that Brock Lesnar, over the Lesnar that we've had further on down the line. One of the things dynamics I've always seen about the Undertaker, Brock Lesnar feuds over the years is Paul Heyman, because obviously we alluded to it at the start of the show. Obviously, the fact that Paul Heyman and Undertaker worked together with the Dangerous Alliance. I was a big fan of the Dangerous Alliance in different forms over the years, and so there's always been that bit of that personal touch to it whenever Heyman's had some sort of involvement with someone before. There's something special when Heyman's involved in that, in my opinion. But for me, I always preferred the stuff like, even with the stuff between Lesnar and Undertaker, if you look at like in 2003, for example, when they did like Hell in a Cell and things like that, we go back to like the Royal Rumble in 2003 where Lesnar won it. It was the first time Lesnar won the Royal Rumble, where he threw the Undertaker out to win it, and the Undertaker's at ringside, and the Undertaker's actually sort of laughing in disbelief, and he actually says, you can see he actually says to Brock Lesnar, "You got me, you got me," But it's the dynamic of their relationship. Personally, we see that tease when Lesnar was fighting in the UFC. Undertaker was a regular attendee at those shows, and we had that one where which went viral, where Brock Lesnar walks past Mark Calloway and they go face to face, and Undertaker goes, "You want to do it? Let's go." And Lesnar just sort of stares at him and then just walks off. And then online, it went mad.
Could you imagine if TKO owned WWE at that point?
I mean, that would
have been headlining UFC, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And I probably never would have went to a WrestleMania because they would have probably ridiculously priced it well out then. So
wow, you wait. It's all happening. The reason, I'm with you. I prefer the NCAA Brock Lesnar, the collegiate All-American, the one who could actually go. I just want to get, before we touch on this a bit more, because there is a reason why I've brought Brock Lesnar up now, and you obviously know what this reason is, and you know where we're going to go with it. We referenced earlier on, you've referenced it, I've referenced it, that he was a Paul Heyman guy. He was part of the Dangerous Alliance. This is one of the things that really frustrates me with the WWE, okay? And to a degree, TNA, right? They have got this back catalogue that wrestling historians and wrestling fans would love to sit on. Right? They have got every match from WCW, every match from SMW, every match from Evolve, every match from AWA, right? For argument's sake. In those matches are performers that are now under contract with you. Yes?
Yep.
In those matches are storylines that link directly to the performers that you've got under contract with you. Now, This feud with The Undertaker, right? He is a Paul Heyman guy. They have never played, and they don't do this at all, not just with The Undertaker, but with anyone, the fact that Heyman's relationship in WCW influenced some of the guys that are now under the roster. Right?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So when you're doing a match between The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar, why do you not bring in Heyman cutting this promo going, I remember when you just entered the business. I managed you. I know you better than anybody else alive.
Yeah.
That would have just added, they could have shown shots of The Undertaker as Mean Mark Callis back in the day. They're not afraid to put it on the YouTube channel, but they won't bring it into storyline. It adds that personal dimension to the story. It gets you invested as a fan it's not just the WWF history that we're talking about here. They won't do it, obviously, but it seems such a waste. They are just sat on this gold mine that they could make relevant again.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I really do. And I think the other thing as well is, as we're obviously alluding to with Paul Heyman as well, I tell you one thing I loved watching as well, and I would encourage any of our listeners to go on YouTube and find this if you're interested, because it's really good. Paul Heyman did a live show with a company you and I know very well over in the UK called Inside the Ropes. And there is Paul Heyman's storytelling is on another level, because he gives you just enough info that keeps you guessing, but he doesn't give you all the answers, and he leaves you thinking with more questions than you had to begin with. And I love that about him. He touches on the WrestleMania 30 at the end of the streak, and he actually says in there about, was it The Undertaker's choice? Did The Undertaker know that the streak was going to end? Like, he literally, did Brock Lesnar go into business for himself? And that's the thing. And you know that Heyman knows, but he's letting you know that he knows, but he's letting you he still leaves you at the very, when you think he's going to tell you the answer, he leaves you thinking, he leaves you thinking, you've got to question it even more. But did he? And that's the thing. But it's the way he tells the story. Honestly, you don't get your answer, but honestly, and one thing as well with Heyman is when he talks about these people that like The Undertaker, that he has worked with previously and he's been a part of their careers and whatnot, he has a way of speaking so highly of them and respectfully of them, where he doesn't just, he's never, there's no arrogance with Paul Heyman when he talks about his career as such. He does openly admit it. You question whether it's Paul Heyman the persona or Paul Heyman the guy, when he turns around and says, like, for example, at the Hall of Fame, when everyone was going, you deserve it. And obviously I'm not going to swear, but he said, but you're damn right I do. Like, he knows he deserves that place in the Hall of Fame, but he doesn't cover himself in glory when it comes to what he's done and contributed to other top stars' careers. He puts it all on them, saying, I was there, I was lucky to work with them, and I may have done this and whatnot, but they did this, they did, and it's an interesting dynamic when he talks about those stories, and you sit back and you just go, honestly, you are something else. Like, and I mean that in the highest regard.
It is the sign of a very good leader when they do that, because he is absolutely right.
Yeah,
he doesn't do it. It is he could be at ringside and he could give the rub. Let's say Paul Heyman was in a UKPW ring with, I don't know, one of the top stars they've got there. Name me one of the top performers in UKPW.
Alexander Roth.
Multiple,
yeah.
Okay, so he's now a Paul Heyman guy, right? Paul Heyman's there. Paul Heyman's giving him the rub, but unless he performs in that squared circle in front of the audience and in front of the millions and millions of people watching at home and around the world, means jack.
Yeah. And the UK fan, I should imagine UK fans listen to this pretty much almost anyone who knows anything about UK indie circuit knows who the Wolf of Broad Street, Alexander Roth is. And I reckon if you was actually to put him with Paul Heyman, that I think would work because Roth is a workhorse. He's exceptional. If you was to put him with Heyman, who gives him that little bit extra, that's a match made in heaven.
I'm just using it as an example. Just to kind of say that whoever gets put with Heyman or with Jimmy Hart back in the day, or with Bobby the Brain Heenan, or with Slick, or with Sensational Sherry, or with Liz, whoever, the manager can only do so much. It's the talent in the ring that have got to put it over.
Well, we've seen it. We've seen him when he punked. I think the interesting one was Cesaro, because for that brief period of time, Cesaro, even Curtis Axel, almost. But that didn't work. But I mean, I look at talent who they've got something special about them, but they're not being booked right, or they're not quite got the right environment. And one of the people that I think of, and I think it's very strange because obviously Vincent McMahon took him under his wing, was Austin Theory. If Paul Heyman was to take someone like Austin Theory under his wing and put him in the correct environment, I think Austin Theory could have become a bigger player than he has been. I'm not saying that may never happen because obviously, we've got the whole thing with division. Seth Rollins has now exited that. There's a tease now. By the time you've listened to this, you probably know anyway, with the whole thing about they're sort of teasing Logan Paul, kind of joining that thing, which I'm a bit about. I don't think he necessarily needs that. So, but yeah, you're right. That's the thing. And I think that's also when you look at the dynamic of Paul Bearer and The Undertaker. The Undertaker did speak, but Paul Bearer added so much more to the character.
Yeah, because I think without Paul Bearer, The Undertaker as The Undertaker back in the 90s wouldn't have worked.
No.
Because it didn't work with Brother Love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hence the repackage. But I just want to go back to this Brock Lesnar feud because you referenced why we're talking about it now. WrestleMania 30, The Undertaker's unbeaten streak came to an end.
Yeah.
First time since WrestleMania 7, The Undertaker had lost at WrestleMania. Now, I remember I was away. I was on holiday. I was out of the country when WrestleMania 30 happened. And I remember checking my phone, going, what's going on? And people texting me going, oh my God, Sting's arrived. I'm like, what? Then I go, oh my God, the streak's broken. And I sent one back going, you are taking the P.
Yeah.
And they went, no, the streak's broken. The streak's broken. The Undertaker has lost. The Undertaker has lost. The streak is done. And I didn't believe him. Came back, watched the pay-per-view. The streak was broken. And there is a classic scene in the audience with that guy with his eyes about to pop out, right? And that's up on screen. But I genuinely think it was a bad decision to this day.
I do. And I think, because obviously the guy that we've just seen on screen, for those watching on YouTube, there's a guy who obviously that's standing there and he's got his hands on his head like this and he's like,
yeah,
he looks completely lost. Now I remember, and I'll never forget where I was, who I was with, what I was doing, that precise moment the streak ended. I was at home. My ex-wife was at work. My son was sitting on the sofa with me and my best friend Dan, and we had Domino's pizza because that was our thing. Pay-per-view night was Domino's pizza, and we sat there and we're just eating, we're watching this, and I'm like, we're just thinking, bloody hell, like the Undertaker's just getting like
manhandled,
absolutely dominated in this,
yeah.
And you could tell something's not right with Undertaker. You know something's not quite right. I was starting to think this was going to be a change in The Undertaker's persona again. It was going to be another rebirth. He was going to go off TV for a while. Then he was going to reinvent himself again. That's what I kind of thought, because I've seen this before. You know, we talk about Survivor Series, Royal Rumble 1994. You know, we talk about, like Buried Alive, in 2003, Survivor Series, where he loses and then comes back as at WrestleMania 20 with Paul Bearer again. We look at these dynamics. So that's what I'm thinking. And I'm thinking, here we go, F5 after F5. And I'm thinking, okay, if The Undertaker really kicks out of this, then I don't really know what Lesnar's going to do or how he's going to pull off the win here. And then there's that 3 count. Straight away, the first thing you hear is dead silence and Paul Heyman's voice going, "Oh my God." And then you've got him as though Lesnar doesn't even realize he's done it. He's sort of there, sort of gathering gathering himself together. And everyone at ringside, all the staff, the commentators are all there, absolutely stunned. And you can hear Paul Heyman saying to Brock Lesnar, you've done it like that. And then you just gradually just see Brock Lesnar start smirking and smiling. And it was probably the most surreal moment in 29 years of me being a professional wrestling fan that I've ever been truly stunned and lost for words. And I remember my mate Dan looking at me going, that's my childhood come to an end right there. He said
it really did feel like the end of an era, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was a moment where I honestly thought we would never see The Undertaker back again.
No, I didn't. I actually thought that was him done. I really did. I'm with you. I don't like it. I didn't like it. I always saw one of two things. If he was he was either going to be the only superstar to have a career that long and to always remain unbeaten at WrestleMania, or he would have to do it in a passing of the torch moment. And I thought it should have been against Bray.
I
do.
Yeah.
Because when Bray used to say he was the new face of fear, and when you have that, I get goosebumps every time. And I watched that video promo with the lead singer of Shaman's Harvest doing the song Into Darkness that plays over the video package of it, where there was something about the way Wyndham spoke through that build-up and was goading The Undertaker into facing him at WrestleMania when he was saying it was the way he used his words when he was saying he said something along the lines of has the hands of time finally tore you apart or something like that, and it was just the way he did it, and he was goading him, and they was just saying like, I'm the new face of fear. I feel that if they were going to pull the trigger on ending the streak, they should have passed the torch to Wyndham. And I don't think people would have been overly be upset with that. I really don't. So, yeah,
I Bray, not the Fiend.
Oh yeah, no. I would have had to have been Bray, and it was Bray he faced. It was before the Fiend came along. So I would have had it. One thing I laugh about as well, which I couldn't believe it when we actually saw this, and just touching on this Bray Wyatt WrestleMania match with Taker, was my son, a big wrestling fan and had his action figures. He showed me one day sitting there playing with his wrestling ring and his action figures. He's gone, Daddy, look what I did. And he'd posed the Bray Wyatt figure in the spider walk with his arm bent like that, with Undertaker sitting up in the middle of the ring looking at Bray. So they're in that pose. And I went, that's brilliant, son. I said, that is amazing. And I was like, if them two ever wrestle, that's something they should do. They did it at WrestleMania. Yeah. And when my son called it, like he did it with action figures. And I think I've got a photo of it somewhere on my socials. But yeah, the streak ending, what made it even worse was when Taker then went on to lose to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania.
I've never quite got over seeing the graphic still continue to increase, but have that one.
Yeah.
Because I'm totally with you. I was against it when it happened, and I'm against it now. Because it made no logical sense for it to be Brock Lesnar.
No.
And actually, I kind of think back to what's happened in the last 18 months with the World Wrestling Federation, World Wrestling Entertainment, and Brock Lesnar. Because Brock Lesnar was gone, right? He was excommunicated from the company. Potentially, that meant the loss meant nothing. And I don't know. I could see. I'm with you on Bray. I've always said that if the streak ever came to an end, it should have been for like you said, a passing of the torch moment. I'm glad he beat the other two that we're going to talk about in a minute, Shawn Michaels and Triple H, in their series of matches, because that meant something. But it never felt the same seeing the Undertaker at WrestleMania again, because
the aura diminished.
That uniqueness of knowing, is it that betting element? Is it going to happen this year? Is it going to happen this year? Because there were moments in WrestleMania history where I genuinely did feel it was coming to an end.
Well, you look at the battles that Taker would have at WrestleMania were so legendary. I mean, you look at, his matches with Edge, Batista, Randy Orton, those three matches, how back and forth and how many near falls they were in those matches. And then you throw Shawn Michaels, which we'll get onto more in detail in a minute. But if you're going to have such an iconic and defining moment in wrestling history to end the streak, it's a privilege and an honor that you get the Undertaker to agree to, because I always agree that as talent, you kind of you go with what your employers tell you because you are employed. You work for them, whether you agree with it or not, and whether the fans are happy or not. But I think consulting the Undertaker and having him on board and saying, do you know what, actually, yes, I'm ready to let this go. But you bestow that honor, and it is an honor and a privilege
totally.
On someone that I feel, as I said, it's a passing of the torch moment, someone that you're going to give a serious rub to, someone that you're actually going to go, the Undertaker's had this position for decades now as the scariest, fearful persona in the company. And this is why I say Bray Wyatt, because Bray Wyatt was the only thing close to that wasn't Kane, and obviously Kane was nowhere near at that level at that point. And saying, this kid is special, let's bestow that honor on him. Let's put him on that mantle. And then the Undertaker could have then gradually just wound his career down till he retired.
It would have made absolute perfect sense.
Absolutely. Although I will say, and I know we'll touch on it when we get to it, because I appreciate it's a two-parter, is I'm still not happy of the way the Undertaker went out, because it was in front of no fans.
We'll touch on that in just a second. Let's continue the streak conversation, because just going back to the breaking of the streak, you referenced it earlier on about the respect that McMahon had towards the Undertaker. I cannot imagine that they would have done this if the Undertaker wasn't happy to drop it. So, because McMahon wouldn't have done that.
No, I agree. I do believe that the Undertaker did, and we know that he and Brock are friends. We know there's a mutual respect.
But I don't get the payoff. I never have got.
That's why it doesn't sit right. Is it makes very little sense. Why Lesnar didn't need it. Lesnar, in no way, shape, or form, did Lesnar really benefit it. The only thing that benefited from it was it gave Paul Heyman some extra lines to say when he said about the 1 in 21 and 1. When he used to do all that. That's the only thing that really came from that.
But then you reference Roman. Roman didn't need it.
Roman didn't need it. Oh, I still view it as though it was the company's way of, because Vince was trying to pull a John Cena on us with Roman Reigns, where the fans weren't on board with Roman, and he was getting booed, and they kept trying to throw Roman Reigns' push down our throats, and Vince probably went, oh, I know, we'll put him over the Undertaker to try and elevate him even more. People will accept Roman Reigns. It wasn't that. It took Roman Reigns to be the biggest heel in the company to go through one of the best storyline angles in history that had longevity, for people to finally love and appreciate what he did and become, more popular now than he's ever been.
And now it's taken him to be on a part-time schedule for people to miss him.
And there you go.
But you're right. I mean, there's an argument to state that we should never have seen The Undertaker at WrestleMania again.
No, but I still think maybe it should have been retirement. I think drop it to Bray and step away.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you at all. Let's talk about Michaels.
Yes.
So the two-parter, the back-to-back. It is, when you do a top 10 list of WrestleMania matches, If you do not have these matches either at number 1 or in the top 5, there is a problem. This was Mr. WrestleMania versus Mr. WrestleMania. And I always think that's a bit of a disservice to The Undertaker, this Mr. WrestleMania moniker for Shawn Michaels, because WrestleMania wouldn't have the same level of stature if it wasn't for the streak. It was Mr. WrestleMania versus Mr. WrestleMania.
Yep.
Twice.
Yeah.
The second one, arguably not as good as the first, because lightning doesn't strike twice. But both of them, the entrance for Michaels coming in, the all white, the god, coming down from the rafters.
Yeah.
It sent goosebumps. And, Michaels was drawing the end of his run. The Dead Man was obviously part-time drawing the end of his run. These two went back to being in their prime. They did not miss a beat.
They brought out the absolute best out of each other. And they were, because Undertaker was kind of become a special attraction at that point. Shawn, as you said, was winding down. He knew he was close to retirement. And I feel another thing as well with the whole Roman Reigns thing as well, losing to Roman Reigns, leaving his gloves and hat in the ring was kind of like felt, and it just all felt wrong. It just didn't sit right. But going back to Shawn Michaels, I mean, they gave it everything and more. Like literally, I mean, it's one of the first few times I watch a match so many times, the same match. I know what's happening almost move for move and segment for segment, and I'm exhausted. Because it is a journey. It really is an absolute journey. It's a thrill ride. And I still say, to me, it's the one at 25, the greatest match in WrestleMania history. It had everything.
Had the kitchen sink.
It did. And what I liked about it as well was the whole, and again, I'll appreciate, we'll get to it when we come to it, is it was kind of it signaled kind of a 4-year long-term ending of an era of storytelling between the whole D-Generation X and the Undertaker history, because it was WrestleMania 25, 26 was Taker versus Shawn. Shawn goes. Then 27, 28, it's Triple H Undertaker, with 28 being Hell in a Cell with Shawn as the special guest referee. And a moment which made a grown man cry at the very end of that match, seeing the three of them embracing in front of that stadium on that stage, it hit me in every feel.
Now, this is where I've got a problem.
Okay.
This is where I've got a problem. Because 25 to 28, arguably four of the greatest WrestleMania matches in history. All I say is 26 to 30. Just, if you could, shoved it along a year. Michaels versus Undertaker 26, 27, 26, 20. Yeah, anyway.
Shawn Undertaker was 25, 26, Triple H.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, I'm saying shovel it along a bit. So the end of the era match was at WrestleMania 30.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And at that point, Undertaker goes out, wins it. At that point, as they walk off, that's the end of an era. That's the retirement of the Undertaker.
Yeah.
They build it as the end of the era match. They didn't really go into detail about what this end of an era meant, right? We're all sat there going, is it the end of the Attitude Era? The end of the storyline, which it was. Is it the end of the Undertaker? Is it the end of Triple H?
And then Leslie Nielsen pops out again and says, "Oh, I'm looking for the Undertaker again." And I get what you mean. I mean, I used to, when Taker was still wrestling on a regular basis, I used to try and picture. I always thought Undertaker would retire at WrestleMania. I thought it would always be WrestleMania, and all right, it technically was, but I used to play in my mind how it would look, because I would think the Undertaker retiring is going to be such a big pivotal moment that Vince is going to go all out with production and everything like that, and make it like the most iconic, visually incredible experience you'd ever see. I'm trying to get the words out there, but And I used to see different things, like, for example, The Undertaker slowly, like, for example, The Undertaker in the ring after winning his final match, then having the voice of Paul Bearer going, "Oh, Undertaker, the time has come to come home," or something along those lines, and have a single light beam coming from the entrance shining just on him in the ring, with the gong coming, and just having the gong as he's walking. And as he's walking, either have silhouettes of people dressed as all of the Undertaker's victims from WrestleMania years, as well as, do you remember when he did the entrance, when they did the thing with the souls where their arms were reaching out from the side of the ramps, something like that, and then have him stand on the stage, turn at the crowd one last time, roll his eyes back, raise his arm like that, and then he went down on a platform like that. And
that's goosebumps, because you mix in the hologram technology. You could have had holograms.
Book me for creative WWE. I know what I'm doing.
Okay, Triple H, if you're listening. Let's shift on, because we are well and truly in the second part of this show now. But let's shoot on. You mentioned the match in the pandemic with no audience at WrestleMania. Talk to me about that. Why does it get you in the feels so much?
I feel it's unfortunate. I feel someone like The Undertaker should say goodbye with the adulation of the fans in attendance. I do feel he should have had send off similar or along similar lines to what I just explained that I always pictured in my mind. Don't get me wrong, I've got no issues with the actual match he had with AJ Styles, the movie type match. I thought it was very well done. But for me, it needed to be a bigger send-off, because that was it. And then obviously there was the Hall of Fame in Dallas at WrestleMania 38, 2022, which, again, as I said, the incredible honor of being at, and that was kind of almost a goodbye. But it wasn't kind of a goodbye, because at the same time, at the very end of the very long speech, he puts on his coat and his hat, and then he just randomly just says, "Never say never," and like that. And it's just like, but you're leaving the door open again. Now, I kind of get that you might still make a WrestleMania appearance here and there, which he did do at WrestleMania 40 last year during the main event between Cody and Roman. But it's like, you've got to let it go. If you're walking away, walk away. Like, you've nothing more to do. You've done everything.
Let's ask the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
WrestleMania 43, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. You know they are spending a fortune to bring talent back. This is what the Prince of Saudi wants, right?
There is no WrestleMania 43.
Will he? All right. Take your political views out of it. There is a WrestleMania 43. Will he or will he not lace up the boots one more time at WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia?
Do you know what? I'm so torn. I would say no, because I would like to. I would like to think he would be true to his word, and he wouldn't. But I can see it. That's the thing. I can see it happening. I don't know whether or not he'd have a match, but I think he'll be involved. There will be something. He will be physically involved in some capacity.
Well, to quote Ted DiBiase, everybody's got a price.
Well, yeah. Insert DiBiase laugh.
I can't do that right now. Let's begin to wind this journey of the Undertaker up. There's still stuff we haven't talked about. We haven't talked about the Ministry of Darkness. We haven't talked about Big Evil. We haven't talked about American Badass. Maybe we do need to touch this again in 2026, and we will do, talking about those specific characters. I want to talk about the Hall of Fame. So the Undertaker is Hall of Fame bound. He is in the Hall of Fame. You were there. You saw the induction for the Undertaker. So in a minute, get your view on what that was like. But I want to talk quickly post WWE. He has come out. He's shed the Undertaker name. It's now Mark Calloway. He's doing the 6 Feet Under podcast with Michelle McCool. He's involved in LFG. He's done a lot more speaking tours. Is this the right thing to do? Or has he now completely destroyed the ethos, the character of the Undertaker?
No, I think it's the right thing to do, because he's, although his name will be sold as the Undertaker for things, he very much is Mark Calloway. And, you know, he did allude to when he first retired about when he started to speak more and get more in the public eye. He said, I've been the Undertaker for over 30 years. He said, I've lived the Undertaker gimmick in my private life. Anytime I was out in public, I was dressed in black and I was very much the Undertaker. He said, it's time to be Mark Calaway for the people to get to know Mark Calaway. And I like that because he's got so much to tell and that he can tell. And I love the fact that he's doing so.
In fairness, he still wears black.
Oh, yeah, of course he does, because that's his style. But you know what I mean? He would still walk the streets in a dark black trench coat and things like that, and black shades and things like that. So I don't begrudge him it at all. I like it. I love hearing his stories. I have my own personal opinions about him doing his show now with Michelle McCool. I think the dynamic of it has changed, and I feel there's a lot more holding back. Maybe that's because the WWE are now directly involved in it. I don't know, but we'll park that. But the Hall of Fame, obviously when I knew I was going to WrestleMania that year, it was way before he was announced as the main inductee. And when it was announced, I was like, oh my God, wow. And it was the same thing with Paul Heyman with last year. I never thought I'd be there for Heyman's. And I was so excited to be a part of it. And honestly, the entrance, because where I was seated above where you can see the stage and you can see the ramp going down to the ring and that. So obviously you could see all the current superstars and their partners and legends and that all making their way in. You could see them do the red carpet talking thing that they're with like Byron, Saxton and whatnot. But when Vince came out and then he had that look of pride on his face and he actually said to you, I give you Mark Calaway, the Undertaker. So he called him by his name first. And when the lights went out, the mist come out, and you seeing all these people, all these wrestlers and that sitting on the red carpet on their seats on the stage, and the mist is like engulfing them, and they are there, like literally the respect on them. Some of them were almost, it looked like they were actually like almost like bowing to him as he comes out in his black suit and that, and he walks out. And it was the first time I was ever present to The Undertaker in the same room and witnessing that, and you feel it. And the fact is, I mean, you go back watching it, but I think it was like near on 15 minutes before he really could speak, because everyone was just singing, thank you, Taker, you deserve it and whatnot. And you see him on the big screen, physically emotional, as if to like this. And I'm in there and I'm getting emotional because I'm just thinking like, this is the moment now. I think it really hits The Undertaker, hits Mark Calaway of just who he really has been and what everyone thinks of him. And there's nothing in this world will ever come close to any of us truly understanding what it must feel to be that person in that moment.
Jump forward to WrestleMania. Yeah. So you're in the arena, you're watching the event. They bring out the Hall of Fame inductees from that year. Talk to me about the atmosphere in the arena.
Honestly, it was there was two moments of madness. Was the eruption when they're announcing the Hall of Fame class. Obviously, the Undertaker gets announced straight after Shad Gaspard for the Warrior Award. Literally, it's like, a Warrior recipient award, Shad Gaspard, and everyone's just like, applauding. And then all of a sudden, the gong hits, the place goes crazy. It's the first time I really feel a stadium erupting. I'd never heard anything like it. Then you see the flames rising, which they couldn't do at the Hall of Fame because we would have had Kentucky Fried Randy Orton probably like sitting there. And it's like, oh my God. And I've got it recorded, so I know my reaction, and it's just, it's surreal. And then the second one was when Stone Cold Steve Austin's entrance hit for his showdown with Kevin Owens. You do feel that chill, even though you know The Undertaker is not competing, which sucks because I didn't get to see him compete live. But the entrance, the aura of what the entrance and the music, the visual brings to you, it's something else. It's otherworldly. It really is.
What an experience. What an experience. As we come to the end of this journey into the career of The Undertaker, 2 episodes. You don't know it, because if you've been listening to it, we've just continued. We've cut it at a certain point. I don't know when. And we've carried on this episode. So thank you for joining us. As we wrap this up, Stefan, I am going to give you the last word on here. What is the legacy of The Undertaker to professional wrestling?
It's on its own pedestal. There never has been, and there never will be anything in wrestling quite like The Undertaker. The longevity, the constant reinvention, the fact that he's covered every dynamic anyone could ever have in their wrestling career, from the highs, the lows, the way he pushed himself. From watching the Last Ride documentary, seeing how much he wrestled injured. The fact is that some of the most infamous and most watched moments in WWE history are to do with The Undertaker. He's involved in some way. You talk about Hell in a Cell with Mankind at King of the Ring in '98, the fact that he was wrestling that and actually jumped down from the roof of the cage with a broken ankle. The guy has given everything. He's never openly ever complained. He's always stayed off of social media throughout his career, even the latter stages of his career, and never publicly criticized anyone. He has done everything. He's been a leader. He has been responsible he's literally done it all. And to think of a world where The Undertaker never existed in professional wrestling is unthinkable. And all I can say is, for me, is just, again, and I know he's heard it a million times from everyone else, is thank you for everything. It's been, the Last Ride has been the greatest ride, and will always be the greatest ride that professional wrestling will ever witness.
Couldn't really say it any better myself. Now, that has come to the end of this Undertaker run. In 26, we will move some stuff around. We will do a part 3, looking a bit more in detail at Big Evil and the American Badass, because we didn't really touch on that, and a bit about the corporate ministry, because we didn't really touch on that either. What do you think of The Undertaker? Where do you think he sits in history? Let us know on social media at Celebrate Wrestling. All you need to do is go to Facebook and search for Celebrate Wrestling. Click join. Mike will let you in. He'll ask you a couple of questions. Please bear in mind, it is a what, Stefanos?
It's a no jerk zone.
Okay. We will let you in, and you can interact with all of us, all of the hosts, Mitch, Dimitri, Mike, Joe, me, Stefan, and everybody at Celebrate Wrestling. Stay tuned to the podcast feed, because ACT drops every Saturday. Maguire on Wrestling with Meltzer is on a Sunday, and we are, of course, on a Wednesday. And that's it for us. We will see you next week with more legends. I'm not going to give you the topic, because I need to have a chat with Stefan, because I want to change it up slightly, just because of where we are in the year. So we're not going to tell you about that. We will see you next week for more Legends and Champions. Until then, we will see you at the matches. So long and farewell.